Hello, I'm Dr. Debanjan Chakravarti, Head of English Interface Program of British Council in India. I'm in conversation with Professor R Amritavalli, Vice Chancellor of the English and Foreign Languages University based in Hyderabad. Professor Amritavalli, thank you very much for speaking to us on camera.
Thank you.
You gave a very stirring sort of opening speech which set the tenor for the conference. I was just wondering, what do you think is the value of a conference like this in improving the quality of teacher education in India?
Well, the very fact that, this is the second year we're having this kind of a conference in partnership with the British Council, and the very fact that enrollment has jumped from 600 to 1,000 this year, that is an index of the value of this conference. So let's speculate why teachers want to come to this conference. You see, here they're getting exposure to the premier leading institutions on English language education from Britain and from India, and exposure to the best thinking in the field, the most modern thinking in the field, and networking amongst themselves, building the sense of a community, building the sense of a professional community which has shared challenges, shared problems, and out of that sharing of problems and challenges, the possibility of evolving local indigenous solutions to each of their problems. I think these are some of the possibilities that a conference like this offers.
Professor Amritavalli, you are one of the leading authorities in evaluation and testing and assessment in India. What is your take on the current animated debates and discussions going on around CCE, especially in elementary education in India?
It stands for Comprehensive Continuous Evaluation. And the idea is that one single test at the end of a year, which was the prevailing pattern, does not offer you enough of an index of the growth of learning in a person. A child may be unwell on the day of the examination, may be stressed for some other reason on the day of the examination, and so many other factors affect the performance at a single examination. So the idea was that we should have opportunities to assess a child at many points, because learning is a continuous process, and if you shift it to an end of the year event, it becomes a load on the memory. It has all the evils of cramming and so on. That is the reason why this idea was brought in. But unfortunately, when you translate an idea into a label like CCE, and it is perceived as something coming from the top down,
right,
then there is a great lack of confidence in the individual teacher in how to participate in this evaluation, which is my, you referred to my opening statement. I tried to bring in the very homely images of physical growth into this, and the image of the parent and the child into this, for precisely this reason, because this is actually an empowering tool in the hands of the teacher. And the individual teachers are best qualified to judge which children are progressing at what rate. A centralized annual examination takes away the power from the teacher. The individual teacher then has to take the initiative to think about how the teaching is translating into learning on the part of the child, rather than thinking of it in terms of filling out prescribed forms at the end of every week, and so on. It should be done in a much more relaxed fashion. It should be done with much more confidence on the part of the teacher. It presupposes regularity in teaching and learning. That is a big challenge for us, because if you've got used to a system where 8 months of the year nothing happens, and the last 3 months you cram for an examination, that will not work for continuous comprehensive assessment, especially in the primary level. In the primary level, the child is growing almost in front of your eyes, and what the child was doing 6 months ago is not what the child is doing today. So this is what we need to document, that process of growth. You're all now familiar with the process of charts for baby's growth. Okay, you go to the doctor, you get a band in which the child's height and weight is expected to fall within. So you know whether your child is doing very well, doing very badly, or needs special help, and so on. This kind of evaluation will help us to identify slow learners intervene in their learning at the formative years of their curriculum and of their growth and so on. And it is the counterpart of what the universities have now called the semester system.
Do you think there is currently a lot of obsession with the technicalities and the tools aspect of CCE rather than the organic aspect of integrated learning that it's supposed to champion?
Indeed, indeed. You have used the two words which are contradictory here, tools and organic. You have to measure organic growth. If you want to take our own example, our children went to a school where until class 8 there were no examinations. But at the end of every semester, the teacher used to fill out some kind of a progress report and send it to us. And the report would say things like, this child is interested in reading, this child is not interested in sports, but she has learned to do this, this and this, even in sports. Things like that. The teacher has to be given a set of broad parameters, and the teacher has to be shown how to document what she sees as differences in the child, rather than mechanically applying a set of criteria to each child at fixed intervals of time.
You also mentioned during today's conversations with the press in particular that India has witnessed an enormous explosion in literacy rates and education. Reports suggest that about 98% of children aged between 6 to 14 are attending schools across India. What particular challenges does this massive growth in education pose for teaching of English and assessment of English?
For the teaching of English, English in this country ranges from a foreign language to a second language to a first language. There are children who come from mixed marriages in urban areas, where very often the home language, one of the home languages is English, and the parents are literate.
You're speaking of the Chetan Bhagat syndrome, are you?
That kind of. And on the other hand, there are people who have literate homes and can study English again in an urban setting, but as a second language. And on the other hand, you step 100 kilometers out of the radius of an urban center, and there is hardly any English present in the environment. For these children, therefore, to ask them to learn English is like asking my children to learn Russian. One of the suggestions that I have made, which has not found official acceptance yet, is that the class 10 examination should offer the option of not writing an English examination. So my suggestion is that children should have the opportunity to learn English where they can learn it, when they can learn it,
right.
Rather than mechanistically prescribing it from class 1. Your primary school teachers themselves don't know English. We have published work in the EFL journal which shows that even a small story reading project or a storytelling project in primary schools, which is what we thought would be a good alternative to the old chalk and talk method, could not take off because primary school teachers do not have the confidence to tell a story in English. They don't have that much English. Now, you can circumvent it through technology to some extent. That is another way to do this. But first, the problem has to be recognized. The problem has to be recognized that not all our schools can offer the same kind of learning opportunities for English. When they cannot offer these opportunities, to ask every child to pass the same examination at class 10, it seems to me, is not very practical. So I would plead for more flexibility in the routes to English and certification of English. Just as we have a TEFL, is it called TESOL? No.
TESOL.
The teaching, the test of English as a foreign language.
Yes.
TOEFL, sorry,
yeah.
TOEFL.
There's TOEFL. There's
so,
also,
when you want to enter a foreign university, they don't ask you where you learnt your English, how you learnt it.
Right.
They just want to know if you have a certain level of English adequate for a certain purpose.
Right.
Now, I think within our own education system, we have to find ways of mimicking this route, alternative routes to English. And we also have to harness many more potential teachers of English. Every professional in this country is a potential teacher of English, but we do not harness this potential in our school systems. If we can
some of it has started to happen with the Times of India, Teach India campaign and that sort of thing.
That is right. So this is coming from the private sector, it's coming from media and so on. and I would be very happy if this could be integrated into school systems. If you could have a pen pal who writes to you once a year or twice a year, sends you a greeting card in English, that would be much more than what many of our children get in English today.
Right. Thank you very much for talking to us, Professor Amritavalli. We were speaking to Professor Amritavalli, Vice Chancellor of the English and Foreign Languages University of India. Thank you.
Thank you very much.